The shocking truth behind BRP Marine Division is a story of corporate hubris that'll make your jaw drop. They took America's most beloved outboard brand and unashamedly ran it straight into the ground. But here's what nobody's talking about. The real scandal wasn't the engine features or the warranty nightmares. The true disaster was how a Canadian snowmobile company thought they could waltz into the marine world and outsmart Mercury and Yamaha. Yet, despite owning some of the most successful recreational brands on the planet, BRP managed to turn gold into garbage faster than you can say FICHT failure. This isn't just another tale of bad engines. It's a masterclass in how not to manage iconic American brands. Let me paint you a picture here, folks. It's 2001, and Bombardier Recreational Products, the Skioo guys, decides they're gonna save Evinrude from the ashes of OMC's bankruptcy. Now, OMC didn't just stumble into bankruptcy, they face-planted spectacularly thanks to something called FICHT technology. Picture this: German engineering meets Wisconsin stubbornness, and the result? According to court documents and industry reports, the 1998 and 1999 150 and 175 HP FICHT models experienced catastrophic failures. Power heads failing, pistons melting, fuel injectors sticking open, and hydro-locking engines. Some dealers reported having to replace power heads 3 or more times on single engines. But BRP swooped in like a knight in shining armor, convinced they could fix everything. In February 2001, Bombardier acquired Evinrude and Johnson brands from OMC's bankruptcy for $95 million. Pennies on the dollar for two brands that have been powering American boats since your granddaddy was in diapers. Ole Evinrude invented the outboard motor in 1907, for crying out loud. This wasn't just buying a company, it was buying a piece of American history. The kicker? BRP actually had the technology to make it work. Their E-TEC system was legitimately revolutionary. It won the EPA's 2004 Clean Air Excellence Award, had better fuel economy than 4-strokes, and required service only every 3 years. 3 years! Your neighbor's Yamaha needed service every 100 hours, and here's Evinrude saying, nah, just run it for 3 years straight. Here's where things get juicy, and if you're enjoying these behind-the-scenes revelations, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because we're just getting warmed up. E-TEC technology was actually brilliant on paper. According to EPA data, E-TEC engines emitted 30 to 40% less total particulate matter than similar, ultra-low emissions 4-stroke outboards. The engines were lighter than 4-strokes, more powerful pound for pound, and cleaner burning than anything else on the water. Engineers who worked on these motors have stated publicly that E-TEC was decades ahead of its time. But here's the dirty little secret BRP doesn't want you to know. They were selling 21st century technology to dealers who weren't prepared for it. While Mercury and Yamaha were building comprehensive dealer networks and training programs, BRP was struggling to integrate marine dealers into their predominantly powersports-focused system. Industry forums from the period are filled with dealer complaints about inadequate support and training. The G2 launch in 2014 was supposed to change everything. Custom colors, integrated steering, power steering built right into the motor. It was like BRP hired a team of designers and said, "Make us the iPhone of outboards." The problem? Fishermen don't want an iPhone. They want their motor to start every time, and according to multiple boating forums, many balked at paying premium prices for features they didn't need. This is where the plot thickens, and trust me, what I'm about to reveal will change how you see BRP forever. Sea-Doo is crushing it. BRP's own financial reports show Sea-Doo maintaining dominant market share in personal watercraft globally. Rotax engines. They're in everything from Ski-Doos to BMW motorcycles to light aircraft. CanAm, taking significant market share in the 3-wheeler segment. So why did Evinrude fail when everything else BRP touches turns to gold? The answer is so simple it's painful. BRP never understood boat people. Think about it. When you buy a Sea-Doo, you're buying a complete package. Hull, engine, everything designed to work together. When you buy a Ski-Doo, same deal. But outboards, that's a different animal entirely. Boat builders pick engines based on dealer networks, service availability, and reputation. BRP thought they could leverage their powersports success into marine, but Mercury and Yamaha had spent decades building relationships. Here's a number straight from BRP's earning report. Their marine segment revenue fell 53% year-over-year in the quarter before they announced the shutdown. Meanwhile, Sea-Doo was maintaining strong profitability. Alright, lean in close, because this is where it gets really controversial. And if you think this is eye-opening, wait until you hear what's coming next in this video. BRP's management of Evinrude created a confusing product lineup. According to industry analysis from the period, they had overlapping engine models competing against each other, two different 150s, two different 200s, the 2.7-litre and 3.4-litre versions, legacy E-TECs sitting next to G2s on the same dealer floor. Imagine walking into a Chevy dealer and finding two completely different Silverados with the same badge and different prices. That's what BRP did to Evinrude. But here's the real kicker. While Evinrude was struggling, BRP was investing heavily in their core powersports products. They bought Alumacraft in 2018 for $81 million and Manitou for $97 million, plus acquired 80% of Australia's Telwater for $113 million in 2019, thinking they could create this marine empire. In 2024-2025, BRP is selling all these acquisitions, with Alumacraft going to Brighton Marine Group and Telwater to Yamaha Motor Australia. Industry observers have noted that BRP's marine division never seemed to receive the same level of investment and attention as their snowmobile and ATV divisions, which were consistently profitable and growing. On October 17, 2024, BRP announced it is initiating a process for the sale of its marine businesses, specifically Alumacraft, Manitou, Telwater, which includes Quintrex, Stacer, Savage, and Yellowfin, and marine parts, accessories, and apparel. Translation: they're running away from marine faster than a cat from water. But here's what they're not telling you in the press releases. This isn't just about getting out of a bad business. This is about admitting that their entire marine strategy was flawed from day one. José Boisjoli, president and CEO of BRP, said, after careful consideration, and given the current dynamics of both the marine and powersports industries, we have decided to double down on our core powersports activities. What he's really saying is clear when you read between the lines. BRP expects this process to be completed in the first quarter of fiscal year 2026, and they've hired National Bank Financial Incorporated to handle the sale. The timing raises questions. Just as the boating industry is stabilizing from COVID boom and bust cycles, BRP decides to bail. Industry speculation suggests BRP saw the massive investments required to compete in the evolving marine market, particularly with electric propulsion on the horizon, and decided to cut their losses. Now let's rewind to understand how we got here, because the FICHT story is wilder than anything Hollywood could dream up. Fuel injection controlled high technology was supposed to be Evinrude's salvation in the late 90s. The EPA was cracking down on two-stroke emissions, and OMC partnered with FICHT of Germany to develop direct injection. On paper, it was brilliant. In reality, it was a disaster. According to marine industry reports and court documents from the bankruptcy, engines would run perfectly for a few hours, then suddenly lose compression. Pistons would melt, fuel injectors would stick open, and hydro-lock engines. The failure rate on the 1998 to 1999 150 and 175 HP models was particularly high. The worst part? Evidence from the bankruptcy proceedings suggested OMC rushed the technology to market despite testing that showed high failure rates. By December 22, 2000, warranty claims and losses had pushed OMC into Chapter 11 bankruptcy. affecting 7,000 employees. Here's something that'll really bake your noodle. BRP is actually fantastic at what they do, when they stick to their lane. Skioo dominates snowmobiles because BRP understands snow culture. They sponsor racers, support clubs, and their dealers are often riders themselves. CanAm carved out the three-wheeler market by being radically different from traditional motorcycles. Skioo owns the PWC market because they innovate where it matters, making fun machines that are reliable. The difference? Control. With Skioo, and CanAm, BRP controls the entire product. They design the chassis, the engine, the whole experience. With Outboards, you're just a motor hanging off someone else's boat. It's like being a third wheel on a date. Awkward and usually unwelcome. Rotax engines succeed because they're sold to manufacturers, not consumers. BMW doesn't care if Rotax dealers are grumpy, they care if the engine performs. But marine dealers need part support, training, and motors that won't come back on warranty. When BRP announced they were shutting down Evinrude production on May 27, 2020, they simultaneously announced a partnership with Mercury Marine to provide power for their boat brands. If that's not admitting defeat, I don't know what is. It's like Coke announcing they're going to let Pepsi make their cola. Industry analysis suggests Mercury had been positioning for this opportunity, having established relationships with BRP's boat brands before the shutdown. When COVID hit and BRP cited the pandemic as forcing their hand on Evinrude, Mercury was ready with engine supply agreements. The real tragedy: E-TEC technology is genuinely incredible. According to the EPA, when compared to similar four-stroke engines, carbon monoxide emissions with Evinrude E-TEC were typically 30 to 50% lower, and at idle were lower by a factor of 50 to 100 times. But superior technology doesn't matter if nobody trusts your brand. If you own an Evinrude, you're probably sweating bullets right now. Here's the real deal. BRP says they'll honor warranties and provide parts, but the dealer network is shrinking. Forum discussions indicate some Evinrude owners are reporting difficulty finding qualified service technicians and increased wait times for parts. The secondary market is in flux. Recent boat sales data shows some owners are selling E-TECs at significant discounts, while others who appreciate the technology are holding on to their engines. Values vary widely depending on model year and condition. Smart money says to find a good independent mechanic who knows E-TECs and stick with them. The technology isn't going anywhere. BRP still uses E-TEC in their Skioo snowmobiles, where it has been wildly successful according to marine industry analysis, but marine support will likely continue to diminish. So what's the shocking truth behind BRP's marine division? It's not that they made bad engines. E-TECs were actually engineering marvels. It's not even that they mismanaged brands, though the evidence clearly shows they did. The shocking truth is that BRP appears to have never fully committed to being a marine company. Think about it. They bought Evinrude out of bankruptcy for $95 million, a fraction of what the brand was worth in its heyday. When they realized competing with Mercury and Yamaha would require massive, sustained investment in dealer networks, training, and market development, they seemed to do the minimum necessary while focusing resources on their more profitable powersports divisions. The acquisition of boat companies. Industry observers suggest it was an attempt to control distribution for E-TEC engines. When that strategy didn't produce quick results, they're now divesting these assets as quickly as they acquired them. BRP expects the sale process to be completed by May 2025, the first quarter of fiscal year 2026. Already, Alumacraft has been sold to Brighton Marine Group and Telwater to Yamaha Motor Australia. Industry speculation suggests Manitou could be next, with several potential buyers expressing interest. The real question is, will anyone revive Evinrude? Industry consensus suggests it's unlikely. The brand value has diminished, the dealer network has largely dispersed, and the cost to restart production would be astronomical. More likely, the E-TEC patents will continue to be used in BRP's other products, while Evinrude joins Johnson in the history books of American outboard brands. It's a sad ending to a 113-year legacy that began when Ole Evinrude built his first outboard motor in Milwaukee in 1907, but it's also a cautionary tale. When you buy an iconic brand, you're not just buying assets, you're buying responsibility. BRP seems to have forgotten that, and now Evinrude is paying the price. Here's what kills me about this whole saga. It didn't have to end this way. Evinrude had the technology, the history, and the innovation to compete. What they didn't have was a parent company that understood the unique demands of the marine market. BRP is great at making recreational vehicles for weekend warriors. Snowmobiles, jet skis, three-wheelers, these are pleasure craft. But commercial fishermen who need their motor to start at 4 a.m. in rough seas, tournament anglers whose livelihoods depend on reliability, that's a different customer entirely, and BRP never seemed to fully grasp that distinction. The marine industry is brutal. Saltwater destroys everything. Customers demand absolute reliability, and brand loyalty takes decades to build but can be lost in an instant. BRP thought they could apply their power sports playbook to marine, but they ended up learning an expensive lesson about the importance of understanding your market. Look, I've been tough on BRP in this video, but here's the thing, they're not villains, just a company that appears to have misjudged a market. They saw an opportunity to buy American icons cheap and thought their success in other sectors would translate to marine. It's like buying a classic car at auction and realizing afterward that you don't have the expertise or commitment to properly restore it. The real victims are the dealers who invested in Evinrude, the customers who believed in the brand, and the workers in Sturtevant, Wisconsin, who built these motors with pride. They deserved better than to watch their brand slowly fade away. If you found this deep dive into BRP's marine disaster enlightening, shocking, or just plain entertaining, smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We've got more explosive stories from the marine industry coming up, including the inside scoop on how Mercury and Yamaha are dividing up the outboard market in 2025.